They'll never see me coming. What's going on out there, YouTube's SEL0320 representing JVS. I'm back here again for another review. This is number 7 of the Infinity War Challenge. I am on phase 2. Of course, I'm talking about Iron Man 3. So, the reality is I've actually already reviewed this movie before. So, at the very end of this film, you can go to that and check out what my thoughts were during that time when I watched it. And I can definitely tell you things have changed in my perspective about this film. And even when I watched it just a second ago, like, it is so much more different for me, experience-wise. So you got Shane Black, who's a really great director directing this. And you got the entire cast from all of the other Iron Mans back in this one. You got my man Guy Pearce, Rebecca Hall, and who else? Ben Kingsley. And this is the thing. The very first trailer of Iron Man 3, when I saw it, I was like, yo, they just blew up Tony's house. He looks like he's drowning. Pepper looks like she's in danger. This looks dope. I saw another trailer that saw all these different, like, Iron Man costumes. One that looked like the Hulk Buster ended up becoming like the Ogre or something like that. And I was like, this looks legit. And so, what do I talk about first? Let's talk about the positives. I think that from the visualization standpoint, specifically with the extremists and the way that they utilized it in this film, I think it was really dope. Now, it's nothing connected like the comic, I can tell you that much. But the soldiers that were enveloped with these specific nanites that cause their body to burn and regenerate and just become so mobile and almost near perfect. Yo, I was like, legit, how is Tony gonna beat these things? Because it could just burn through every single bit of armor. And I think that the very end fight showcased that perfectly. You got to see some really serious like fights going on. It was back and forth, specifically with Guy Pearce and Tony Stark, specifically when they thought that, you know, Pepper Potts had died. And like Tony was just going all at it. I was like, this is actually legit dope. Even when Happy almost died and that one guy came at him and he just kept on coming like that, the effects for it were great. The utilization of the motion capture and everything else, it looked amazing. And I think that they did a really good job just with the extremists in general. I just wish they would have capitalized on that. I wish they would have ended with Tony's like, okay, well, maybe I can consolidate this into something that I would use later on. And fitting in line more so with the comics. But that's not the direction that Shane Black wanted to go in. Another positive about this is the essence of PTSD, anxiety, fear, and the acting behind that from Robert Downey Jr. I think that he did a really good job of showing a different side of Tony Stark in this. When he started like having these random moments of just like blacking out, so to speak. And I know that. I know what it really feels like to be in a PTSD situation, real anxiety. When I got through my accident in September 2015, it took a year, if not a little bit longer, for me to even be okay and not be so anxiety-ridden. And it's like the things that really brought me back was like doing things constructive. And it's funny that his relationship with his kid, the kid was the thing that was able to keep him on his toes because the kid would relentlessly talk about it. And at the same time, define him what he is first is not a soldier necessarily, but he is a mechanic. He builds things, you know. And I think that the thing that was a shortcoming with that is I think that they should have made a more finite resolution to him getting over his PTSD because I don't think it was clearly defined. There was an epiphany moment that he had when he's talking to the boy. He's having another panic attack, and the boy was like, "You're a mechanic, right?" And he's like, "Well, go and build something." And then he goes to build something, goes and uncovers the base, and comes to find out the interesting twist in the movie. I thought that it should have been a better refined way of that. But at the same time, when I think about anxiety, specifically panic attacks, it's something in your brain and your mind that has to be switched over in order for you to be limited to those things anymore. It just kind of comes out of nowhere. So I think that realistically standpoint, like it didn't need to be a clear-cut defined. I just think it would have been even doper moving into Age of Ultron. You know what I'm saying? So I think that was one thing that I think that they could have easily done a little bit better. Now, this is the thing. Rebecca Hall and Guy Pearce are great actors. Now, Rebecca Hall, right, and her role as Maya, I when the point where she had Tony there and she was trying to protect Tony, and then Guy Pearce just kills her. Now, for dramatic flair, it makes sense, right? But she even clearly defined, in the event something goes wrong with your body and the mechanics behind, like the extremists, like just the algorithm of itself, I'm the only one that can do anything about it. And he decides, oh, I'm just going to kill you. That makes no concurrent sense to me. It really didn't make any bit of sense at all. There was another moment that happened at the end of the movie where Tony was talking to Pepper, and I get it. I really get it for this film. I get why he did that. But for the overarching Marvel Cinematic Universe, there are ramifications of things that happen in this movie that do not lean over to Age of Ultron in any capacity, or Civil War. But I'll get to that. I'm talking about when Tony was like, go ahead and do the self-destruct for all the costumes. And I was just like, what? And I mean, when he did it, I was like, okay, he had put all his anxiety into making these suits and doing something constructive. I get why he did that. It was like, that's his reminiscence, his like revelation, like, I don't need this. This isn't something I need to protect me anymore. But it's not even just about your protection, it's about the world. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, you don't have a duty to the world, but technically you have a responsibility. And it was kind of like, when it happened, I was like, why you do that? And then on top of that, they showed evidently that she has the extremist armor, and she is a very well asset. Like, I mean, she legit brought Killian down herself. And he was just like, well, I'm going to, temper it. And they never showed whether or not she still has it, whether or not he changed it. Like, they just don't go into it. It's just like, it was gone. I figured out the code to get and remove it, or so to speak. Now, that would have been, I would have been like, okay, I can excuse that. But then he takes out the reactor out of his chest, which is fine, but then he takes the shards out, which I get that, but then he goes and just throws the arc reactor into the water. Now, I remember when I watched this before, and I was kind of like dumbfounded. I was like, yo, so you saying you're not Iron Man anymore? But then you, and I quote, say, one thing you can't take away, I am Iron Man. You say that, but then you get rid of your arc reactor. And so I was like, don't you need your arc reactor to power what you need to do? Because the arc reactor isn't just like something that's in his chest. It's something that he puts within his confines of the suit. When we looked at the Ironmonger in the first Iron Man movie, he needed the arc reactor to be able to activate and utilize the suits. And he throws it into the water. Now, he goes and saves the robots. That's fine. He says himself as Iron Man. But it's like, it looks like he stopped being Iron Man. So it's like not clearly defined, like, what are you really doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, when I looked at this at the time, I was like, so Tony Stark's not going to be in Avengers? Like, he's no longer going to do this? And then he just, in Age of Ultron, he's just all in. He's got his suits. He's doing all these other kind of things. Pepper isn't there anymore. And it's just kind of just like, what happened to the things that happened in this movie that lay over to Age of Ultron? I think that's one of the clear problems. As a film, it's just this as a singular film. I get why he did that. But that wasn't something that stayed canon. That wasn't something that it didn't roll over. It didn't roll over well at all in the long term of things. What else? I thought there's yeah, I brought up killing the girl. I brought up the extremists. Oh yeah, when him and Rhodey were fighting together, I was like, yo, you getting to show Don Cheadle as a straight up savage. I was like sitting there saving the president, doing his thing, even with like some of the action moments that was really dope. And then like you get to the very end where they're at this standoff. These extremist soldiers are already clearly shooting at Tony Stark, shooting at Rhodey, and like they're sitting there trying to shoot back, and they're cornered, right? Why didn't they just kill him? Why wait at all? Like there was never a point that Killian said, don't kill him. Like he never said that. So it's like plot armor didn't make sense for the confounds of that moment. And that's nitpicking. I can admit to that. But I'm sitting there going through this movie and I'm telling you how I feel about it right now. And I was like, they could have easily killed both Rhodey and Tony right there on the spot. Now, one thing I'll say that when I looked at the movie the original time, all the stuff with the little boy, right? and him without his armor. I think at the time when I was looking at the movie, I was like, yo, he's not Iron Man, like this is boring. Then you get like a whole plush of just Iron Man suit action, all this kind of stuff. But most of the good amount of the movie, he's not without a suit. He's dealing with his trying to figure out what's happening kind of thing. And it's like, you know what? For it being a film, I can appreciate it a little bit better now, because like Robert Downey Jr. can just steal a show. Like he really does such a really good job, even with the little boy. Definitely chemistry there, and so I think that I'm not gonna be as taxing on that moving forward when I think about it, especially looking at it now, because you know it was a good little break. Like he really needed that so he can be able to put the suit back on. So I'm not gonna fault that anymore. It's just so weird because at the beginning of the movie, I was set in line to believe, one, Ben Kingsley is this amazing villain that's just ruthless, the Mandarin. And I was like, with powers and stuff like that. That's what I thought I was going to get. Especially when he got his facility blown up and like things were just looking terrible. Like the president sitting there and called this man and was like, okay, stop it. He didn't answer the phone. He still killed the dude anyway. And I was just like, yo, this man's a savage. Tony Stark gets to the freaking location, sees two women in the bed, sees Ben Kingsley talking in this like accent, and it was just like everything that I thought about you in terms of like tone and you being a villain are gone. And it's weird because the first time I watched it, I was like, I can't settle for Guy Pearson. This as cool as he looks, as much as he's doing, as much as he said, I am the Mandarin, you know, like I didn't care because I was already like, that twist didn't work for me. Just make him the freaking Mandarin. You know what I'm saying? And it was just like, nah, he's just some random guy. Now, if you look at the one shot, there's a one shot that goes on. There is an actual Mandarin. They do imply in that one. But it was like, that twist still, even to this day, doesn't work for me in the context. I was just like, even when I was sitting there looking at it, I was like watching, doing all this kind of methodical stuff with the teleprompter and all these kind of things just randomly popping up. I was like, but it ain't real. You know what I'm saying? And just like over time, it just doesn't age any better. Like if the first time you watched it and you really were caught off guard by the twist and it made you laugh and you made you fun, like it didn't for me. And it just continues to kind of bother me ultimately. But I will say, looking at it now, like some of the things that I did have a problem with, I don't have as much problem with. But clearly, some of the things that I do recognize, I do have a problem with. The whole Ben Kingsley fake out, definitely the fact of him blowing up all the suits for what, taking out taking off the mantle in so many different perspectives. Some of the dialogue was a little muddled and weird. Some of the things that Pepper would do and some of the things that he would do just didn't make sense. The fact that Killian killing Rebecca Hall's character didn't make sense. The fact that Tony and Rhodey honestly could have died multiple times when you got something like this. No, I even say this. Tony should have died when he was in the town with a little boy. There should have been no way they should have been able to keep this man alive. None. Unless they were really trying to keep him alive. So, either way, it's a hit or miss. But I do feel a little bit better about Iron Man 3 moving forward. It might not be my worst anymore. It might go to Thor: The Dark World. Because this was my least favorite out of all MCU. So now, man, I'm at a interesting crossroads. I'm going to give this a 7. I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. I initially was going to say a 6, just like Thor: The Dark World. I want to give it a 6.5 because that Ben Kingsley thing still bothers me. But as painful as it is, I might have to keep it at a 7. I don't know. Like, I do appreciate the whole post-traumatic stress part of it. I do appreciate, like, as a film, I can appreciate what they try to do as a singular film. But in the realm of the MCU as a universal film, this didn't go there. It didn't really connect very well. And this was the first movie that capitalized the Phase 2. And it was kind of just like, okay. But anyway, hopefully y'all enjoyed this review. Make sure you go down to the description bar below and check us out on Stardust. When you go to Stardust, it allows you to do a 30-second reaction. I want to know what you guys think about this movie. Leave me your reaction. Make sure you tag at JVS. In addition to that, go somewhere right here. You can check out our review that we initially did back in the day, 2000 whatever, for this movie. And I'll talk to you guys later. Keep it locked. JVS, we ain't gonna stop. Peace, guys.